Hi, ma'am. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for the time. One of the casual things that I definitely wanted to work on is deepfake video. And one of the cases that I specifically want to bring out is the case that we kind of encountered over a reading material on that was done in Hong Kong for about $250 million USD, $250 million USD. So one of my first question that I probably would have is how different is Hong Kong case vis-a-vis when I talk about morphing in general that was used sometime back as well?
Yeah, so thank you for calling me. And how do we differentiate between morphing and deepfake? A morphing is generally a still image, one,
Mhm.
and it necessarily does not use any sort of AI techniques.
Mhm.
Morphing can be done without using intelligence or artificial intelligence techniques or tools. Now, a deepfake is where there is a combination of a video and audio,
Mhm.
and generally would use an AI technique which makes it more realistic, lifelike, more appealing. It appears as if it is genuine.
So, answering to that and asking another follow-up on those lines would be there were some sort of other deepfake videos that came out. Could be an Indian actor who was actually created a deepfake image about them or a video about them, or one of the prominent singers from the US UK band was also part of this unnecessary deepfake. But why this Hong Kong case has actually taken the prominence, and what was it in the first place to start this off?
See, there is one thing when you have a person's reputation at stake. Definitely, it is not, we wouldn't like to belittle it, or a reputation, person's reputation, or a personal attack on a person is not anything lesser than what comes in terms of financial repercussions. But
Mm-hmm.
the Hong Kong case became a sort of an example because of two things. One, the financial repercussion was huge, extremely huge. Two, it was a perfect combination of how employees of a company, despite being knowing a lot of things and being trained on a lot of things as to phishing and other sort of things that they are supposed to avoid to in order to ensure that the company does not suffer losses in the cyberspace. A perfect combination of a phishing and deepfake ensured a loss. So that was probably which ensured that this came to head was highlighted so much.
So when you say that this there was some sort of an awareness, or they should have been, though they had awareness, uh, was this company very specifically toward larger extent targeted in nature? And was there an prior understanding, or have they actually been uh, a victim of phishing earlier? Because getting this large amount of money in a very short period of time with multiple transactions would generally not be probable unless and until there were some sort of an information available, or there were some sort of an victimization of the company earlier.
There is no record of per se of this company being targeted earlier. But if you go to see the reputation of the company, it appears that it's a huge company which has large operations, and would probably the amount that was looked at for extraction was probably the amount the person who perpetrated the crime was looking at. One,
Mhm.
phishing, as far as phishing emails go, or those sort of activities go on, they keep happening. I'm
Mhm.
sure they happened in the company also, which is why it was followed up by a Zoom call, which was again uh, it was like an reinforcement of whatever was put out in the email.
So given that stand, given that stand, and in a very short period of time, they were able to create an entire Zoom link and created a deepfake videos with their audios matching to the executives. How could they do it? How has the perpetrator actually moved in this journey? Because getting a voice of a public figure would be much prominent, may not be on the executive levels. So how could they get an access to it?
Yeah. So basically, if we look at the whole thing, the fact is that there were videos of this entire company's executives put out on the social media for different purposes, probably for their advertisements or for the launch of their products or for events that were taking place in that company. So they were available. They were available in the public. So
Okay.
that's where you get your videos and voices from.
Hmm, 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 hmm,
Two, if the phishing email does not get a response and you get a call for a Zoom call,
hmm, hmm.
or you get an email or some sort of a link for a Zoom call, it means that the perpetrator was pretty skeptical about the phishing email making an impact.
Hmm.
Normally, a perpetrator he has sort of thought out process. If
Hmm.
this fails, this what happens next. There has to be a plan A, plan B, and there has to be an execution because there is a specific target that has to be achieved. So, which is why the links come immediately. Two, now the email that from where the link comes, the first email and the second email probably came from the same link.
Hmm.
If the person who had read the email had actually discovered that this was a phishing email,
The
he
done.
wouldn't have responded to the second.
Hmm, 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 hmm. But
So probably in the first one, it was only the fact that it was an email and he was not, or he or she was not really sure whether that sort of a transaction should happen. The second email coming from the same, I don't think the authenticity of the email was ever checked.
so when you talk about the authenticity of the email, I remember uh, quite a few times you mentioning saying that emails generally give away some things that is too good to be true will always come out, and you always need to be cautious on those lines. And the awareness is still being created, yet we fall to it. Given that, are there instances like when you create a Zoom link, there are certain patterns that a kind of a Zoom follows into. Could be the link in a different manner. There are certain are there any pointers? Because an executive is sharing a Zoom link is not uncommon, but it is also not a common practice because an executive would have somebody else also sharing the link. So, given in that sense, are there any indicators for the employees that could probably bring out one, two, three pointers, like either checking with the executive or how is that they can do?
Yeah. So if normally if your executive does not directly communicate with you, then
Hmm,
who does?
hmm,
Where does your communication come from? Do you have something like a direct way of connecting to the person who normally arranges for these sort of calls? For
hmm,
example, I might have an assistant who normally arranges for all the calls or who arranges for the links to be made. Now
hmm,
if that is the normal process, now that's the normal procedure, then it would be more sensible of me to wonder why this has been done by
hmm,
the person himself or herself, and it would be more sensible for me to for the person who's receiving the email to
hmm,
check up with the regular source who sends it to.
hmm, 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 hmm. One of the thing that I kind of read out during the process is probably what didn't strike the employees' attention was the time zones. While the executive was still somewhere in the early morning phases, while Hong Kong was on almost finishing their day per se, and they had a little bit of a challenge. So now things have become a little escalating. Earlier, we wanted to turn on the video so that we didn't want to get scammed. now we are in a stand where even the turned on video is creating a menace for many of the organizations. And this is just a start, if I'm not wrong. And there are multiple other incidences there where they've done this. So on the call, while you have the instinctive manner to identify whether this could be a deepfake call or a real call, are there any pointers when you look at the audio or a Zoom link or a video itself to identify whether it's a deepfake or not a deepfake? Are there any pointers that we can, as an awareness, can be done?
Unfortunately, no. Today, AI is just so good that just watching a video will definitely not let you know whether it is a genuine one, whether the person on the video is actually the person who that person claims to be, whether whatever is being said is genuine or not. No, as of today, just watching it will not help you. Now, because that's the plus or the minus of a deepfake. As in, if you're going to make a video which is promotional and you don't really want have the time, or the actual actors or the players for that video are not available, you can still make it and make it appear very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
The negative points are that no, you cannot detect it by just watching it. So you will have to employ other means of verifying whether this person is genuine. Now, forget the forensics and the technical parts of it, because I don't think everybody goes through it. But then, yes, the non-technical, as in, as I said, one call or one email back to the person who actually writes emails to you would probably tell you whether this is genuine
or not. Correct. So on the same note, I know we just wanted to give this as an awareness, creating awareness and a session that we need to work on. There are much more cases that I would probably discuss on case by case basis. And we started on the reverse engineering aspect. Well, and let's start with the recent ones. So I look forward to other cases that we can discuss as we progress this week, ma'am. And thank you so much for that time, and thank you so much for the information.
Thank you. Basically, what I would say is that when we do employee training, let's not do it just as a tick mark for our IT audit. Let it be genuine. Let the information that goes to the employee be so strong and the message be so genuine that the employee remembers. See, at the end of the day, it is your company which loses not just the money, it loses its reputation as well. It loses the faith of your clients in your company. So let's not make it a tick in the checkbox.
It's more
Let's
like a
make it
brand
genuine.
that carries.
Right, true.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your valuable words. Look forward for the other cases that we can discuss as we go ahead or as a part of an awareness training session.
Thank you.